Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead. I'm sitting out here on the pier today, guys, just enjoying myself. Reminiscing about the past. Just thinking about a lot of the things that my father and I used to do whenever I was a lot younger. And enjoying throwing my reel out and just fishing away. Not really the time of the day to catch anything, but at the same time, it is just relaxing, just to sit here and watch the old cork out in the water out there. I did catch a bass a while ago. I didn't intend to, but I did. And occasionally a brim will bite or something else of that nature. But I wanted to talk about some of the treasures from the past. I went out to my dad's place. We're getting it ready to put up for sale, and just doing some looking around, and I thought about it. I said, my dad and I used to fish a lot together when I was young. It was like a weekend thing for us during the summertime. When the equipment wasn't tore up from the job or something, Dad would take off and go fishing on Friday evenings or Saturdays, and he always took me with him. So I have a lot of fond memories of my father in the past with fishing. And while we was at his place, Wanda and I, the other day, I said, my dad, what about all of his rod and reels and stuff? I said, I'd like to see about getting that. So we looked around the place. My dad had a specific custom homemade rack that he had made to put all of his reels in on one of his buildings. And I went and looked, and they were all gone. Somebody came in and got them. I was sad about that because I really should have thought a lot more ahead of time and went out there earlier, but I didn't. And I said, well, what about his tackle boxes? So I went into one of the old buildings that was there and went to digging around and looking, and I actually found my dad's tackle box. And when I opened it up, oh guys, the treasures from the past. It is amazing the things that we forget and we don't even think about a lot of times. One, for instance, I got right here with me. I opened up his tackle box, and I totally forgot about this right here. But there's this little thing right here. It's called Bayer Aspirins. They used to come in this little slide box here. It held probably, what is it? I don't even know if it tells how many was in it or not, but 12. It tells that there were 12 tablets in here. 321 milligrams, looks like. It's about faded out. And I was like, wow, my dad had aspirins in his box. But when I opened it, there's not aspirins in this. Now, there probably was originally in the beginning because my dad always carried BCs, stand back, or aspirins with him. And when I opened it up, my dad, all he ever fished for really was panfish. He liked to fish for brim, white perch, shell crackers, rock bass up north they call them. We call them goggle eyes down here. Different things to that nature. And in this little Bayer aspirin box is my dad's pan fishing hooks. And I thought to myself, I said, now that is definitely a treasure from the past. And guys, if you hear something around the camera making a buzzing noise, honeybees is all around this camera for some reason. I don't know why, but they will not leave it alone. Occasionally want to go in front of the lens or something other, and they're sitting all on top of it, and you probably hear them in the microphone buzzing. But I found that, and I was like, wow. I had forgotten all about my dad always having BCs or standbacks or little things of aspirin in his pocket in case he got a headache or something other. And I just had totally forgotten about that. Well, Dad always, when he fished, my dad was a big fisherman with, he wasn't too much with worms. Now, he would take some worms with him occasionally, depending on what he was fishing for. But he mainly would go by the bait shop on Friday when he got off from work, and he'd pick up usually around 200 crickets, depending on what he was planning on fishing for. Now, if he was going to fish for white perch, he would, he'd always pick up some minnows or something like that. But usually if he was fishing for any other kind of panfish or something, brim or goggle eye or rock bass is something that people north call them, different things like that, even some white perch sometime, he would pick up crickets. And he usually tried to do about 200. And my dad believed in catching fish. When he'd catch them, I mean, he caught fish now. And there's been lots of times, if he was going to a creek, he carried a little round cricket holder with him, and he'd have sometimes 100 put in it. And I've seen him run out on the creek before, because creek fish are just different than pond fish. They'll steal your bait so fast, and you get hung up a lot on creeks and you lose your bait and stuff like that. So my dad, I found in his box, and I've just been trying it here in the pond. I've caught a bass and a brim on it already, but it's a fake cricket. Now I know I can't get it close enough here, but I'll make a screenshot of it and get it up kind of closer. It's a fake cricket. Dad was one of these kind. Now my dad was very frugal. He was a very frugal individual. He didn't believe in wasting nothing, not even bait. So he found these in a bait shop, because I very well remember them. And he took them fishing with him. He said, you know, if I don't have to buy crickets, if I can use a cricket lure and I can catch fish with that, and they don't get my bait every time, I'm money ahead. So I'm trying it here now today. It's one of the treasures from the past that I happened to come across there. And it is working. Not, you know, I mean, of course, now's not the time of the day for fish to be biting, but it is working occasionally. So guys, and then I went to looking through his tackle box, and I began to find a few other things in his tackle box that you just don't see anymore. Everything now is in little plastic Ziploc bags and stuff to this nature. And when I was looking through his box, I found this little round disc here that you turn. This has 3 different size pan hooks in it. It's got the little tiny ones, and then the next size up from it, and then the long shank pan fish hooks on it. And I found that, I was like, now you just don't see that anymore, because we just went and stocked Wanda's tackle box up, and all the hooks we got was in little plastic Ziploc baggies. They weren't put into anything like that. And when I began to look a little deeper in there, I found this little contraption right here. It's got a red handle on it, and it's got 4 different size split shots in it made out of lead, and it's made where you can grab the top of it and rotate it, and it's got a hole in the side so that when you get to that size split shot, you can just shake them out in your hand, get what you need to put on your rod and reel. And I thought that was the neatest thing. I said, you know, my whole time at the store the other day, looking around through fishing stuff, I never seen anything like that. And it just, it just amazed me at how much things has actually changed since I was a kid, coming up. And my dad was so frugal. Now, he did buy stuff to fish with. His tackle box is literally full of all kind of little spinner baits and jigging baits and stuff like that for white perch and for brim and stuff, because he liked to catch little yearling bass. Now, he wasn't too much on the old big bass or anything. Now, he liked them. He liked catching them, but he would rather catch those little yearling bass, because to him, he liked to eat the whole fish. He didn't do much filleting or anything like that. He cooked the whole fish and eat it. And as I was digging around through his tackle box, I found this stick whittled out in there, and it actually looks like it was a piece of an old dowel rod. And Dad had whittled that thing down to make him a contraption that takes fish hooks out of fish's mouths, the little tiny brim that the store-bought ones won't reach down in there because it's too big to get in their mouth. Daddy took this little stick and whittled it down and made it like one of the fish hook removers, and he would put it in his pocket in his overalls like this, and he'd take it on the creek with him. So when he caught the little red bellies or goggle eyes or sun perch or whatever it was he was catching on the creek, the little creek bass and things like that, he would use it to get the hooks out of their mouth with. And you know, it's funny, those things came back to me once I began to go through his tackle box. The memories came back, and when those memories came back, I had my dad and I on one of our fishing excursions. We it was my dad, me, and my brother-in-law was out at a lake. My dad was running the trolling motor in the back. I was in the very front of the boat, and my brother-in-law sat in the middle. He always had the bad job. He had to lift the lid up because it had a live well in it. He'd always have to lift the lid up for us to put fish in, and while he was fishing too. As we was going along this big lake dam, the bull grass had begun to come up out of the water, and my dad hollered at me. He said, "Son," he said, "be careful up there." He said, "There's a big moccasin in the water ahead of you up there." And the closer we got, I told him, I said, "Dad, that's not a moccasin." I said, "That's a fish's back dorsal fin sticking up out of the water." He said, "Well, grab the dip net then and let's see what it is." And I took the dip net ahead of the boat because it had kind of a long handle on it. And I reached out way ahead of the boat, and as we went by, I stuck that thing deep under the water and just lifted it up through all that grass and everything like that. And I brought up out of that water a 10 3/4 pound largemouth bass, a female that was getting ready to start spawning and laying her eggs on a nest there. And my dad said, "I'll tell you what," he said, "son, if I hadn't seen that, I would have never believed it." So we put her in the live well, and we went ahead and fished the rest of the day. And I come home, and back then there wasn't much of a thing as taxidermists or anything like that around where we lived at, but there was a gentleman who did do taxidermy out in the country, and I took that fish out there. He was still alive, and I showed him to him, and I said, "Look, I'd like to get this mounted so I'd have a memory of me and my father fishing together." And he said, "Well, it won't be a problem." He said, "Take about 6 weeks or a little bit longer, and I'll probably have it ready for you." So I gave him the fish, and I left. And in about 6 weeks, I called him back, and I said, "Sir, I'm checking on that largemouth bass that I brought you out there, and guys, this is no joke." He looked at me and he said, "You didn't bring me no bass out here." I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "He was still alive. I had him in a ice chest. He was in the ice chest in some water. He was still alive. I brought him out here, and I told you about my father and us catching him with a dip net. I wanted it for a memory." And he told me, he said, "Son, I don't remember nothing about none of that." And long story short, I didn't get my fish back. Didn't have anything to actually show for it. Kind of upset me, upset my dad, because he was anxious to see the fish too, get it mounted and everything. I guess you just can't trust everybody in the world today, you know, and it just it aggravated me that I didn't get my fish back. And I keep watching my cork out here because it's bobbing up and down in the water, and I know it's just a little fish because the pond's got a lot of little brim in it, and because the cricket's not real, they're not getting it off. And that's why I'm not worried about jerking it or anything like that. Now if they take it completely under and they run with it, I'll go ahead and get it. But those are some of the things, you know, when I think about the past and I think about the memories that I had with my father, Sometimes it takes a little bit of a jolt, like picking up the old tackle box and looking through it, to bring back some of those memories. I've got lots of memories of my father and I camping together, fishing together. We done lots and lots of fishing together. And now my dad liked to catfish. I'll say that. He used to take me out to a lake on the other side of the town here where we live at. The man out there had 3 or 4 catfish lakes out there that you had to pay by the pound to fish there. And my dad would take me out there because the fish you caught out there were usually around 3 to 5 pounds. Some of them go up to 8 and 10 pounds. And you had to pay so much a pound for them. And Daddy just liked to watch me catch them big fish and get them hooked on one of these, a Zebco 202 or a Zebco 404 or a Zebco 33. You know, one of these reels that my dad would have. He would just love to sit there and watch me fight with that fish and fight with it and just holler at him, "Daddy, Daddy, I can't get him, Daddy." And Daddy'd have the drag set where it would just sit and strip a lot of times, and he'd put a steel leader on the line where he didn't have to worry about the catfish, you know, cutting the line or anything. And he'd sit there and watch me sometimes 10, 15 minutes trying to reel one of them fish in and get the biggest kick out of it. And you know, now that I'm the age that he was back then, I understand. Because right now, I'm actually going through my barn. I have lots of reels and some rods, but I'm actually buying new rods for some of the old reels and stuff like that. I'm taking the reels apart, I'm rebuilding them, and I'm going to set up here where I've got a lot of rods and reels in case my grandkids want to come here to the pond and fish. I'll have rod and reels for everybody to fish with. That's just it's not necessarily about me catching anything. I just love to watch I love to watch a young person be able to you know, to catch something, and it just brings joy to my soul to know that that my grandkids or whatever would be able to come here to the place and be able to catch fish and be able to enjoy their life. You know, that to me, that's what life is really all about. So guys, today, I know I hadn't caught any fish while I've been sitting here, but I've been watching them bobble around with it out there. They just hadn't took it under. Think about the treasures from the past like that. Lots of things are just are lost and not like me. I didn't go get my dad rod and reels when he passed away. I should have done that. It's just one of those things I didn't think about at the moment. When I had my ponds built, then it dawned on me about his rods and reels and stuff. And now they're gone forever. I won't ever be able to have them. But guys, treasure the memories that you make with your family and with your friends, and look for little things like the little aspirin box, the stick in my pocket here. Take time with the young ones and make things like that and share some memories with them so that when they get to be my age, they can sit back and they can reminisce about those sort of things. So guys, I gotta get back and get serious with my fishing. I've been sitting here just goofing off. I just thought I'd bring this video up and let y'all hear a few stories about fishing and my dad and I and some of the treasures from the past. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.